إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. One of the questions that was presented from the sisters was dealing with the dress code. And the question actually was because of the way she was being treated, because she had her face uncovered and her hands uncovered. And she felt that sometimes when being amongst the Muslims who were trying to follow the Sunnah, because of this she was being treated badly. And they were looking down on her. That is unfortunate because it's an indication that the people who are doing that, they don't understand the da'wah at all. If someone, like most of us, there are a lot of things that we don't understand. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when gentleness accompanies something, it adorns it. When harshness and bad manners accompany something, it disfigures it. It makes it ugly. So one of the characteristics then of the person who is inviting to this da'wah is that wisdom must be used along with gentleness. And if someone disagrees with you on an issue, a fiqh issue, that has been discussed from the earliest times, and the scholars of old differed on it based on the textual evidences that they have. And that's not something that you want to use to ostracize or belittle a sister about. So that's very unfortunate that we have that childish attitude among some of the people who have not yet developed the maturity of the Muslimah in this da'wah. It's a disservice to this blessed da'wah that we have. With that in mind, we'd like to show both the brothers and sisters the other side of this discussion, and perhaps it will show you that there is some basis for the practice that some of these sisters hold. And it's not simply because they're following their desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, brother, someone will stretch this out a bit. He says in Surah An-Nur, when commanding the Muslim women, he says, وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, that they should not display their adornments except what appears thereof. This particular verse, the companions who lived with the Prophet ﷺ and who were present when this verse was revealed differed as to what was intended behind this verse. We have, for example, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, He said that what is intended by what appears, which you're allowed to show, is the outer garment. The outer garment would be called the jilbab. And let me just step a little bit back. The jilbab is not that garment that you wear that shows your figure, that is cut to the curvature of your body. And so that when you come out of your house, the people could see the shape of your... That's not a jilbab, that's something else. Because the jilbab is supposed to cover that. So we're not talking about that novel wear that has become popular among some of the Muslims. It's not what we're talking about. Okay? The jilbab was something that was worn on top of the khimar in addition to the other garments that the sister wore underneath. We'll see that inshallah. Hopefully we'll have enough time today to cover it all. Ibn Mas'ud then was of the position that this verse allowed you only to show that and nothing else. That position is the one that is popularly known amongst some of the brothers and sisters. We have another position from amongst the Sahaba. And because the position is not very well known, I intend to deal with it from the position of the scholars of the hadith. I will be using some expressions that I need to explain right now. The word thiqah. This expression refers to someone who narrates the hadith, and he has certain qualifications. One is his accuracy when reporting something. His competency level in terms of his memory, his accuracy and recall, documentation. If he's lacking in those areas, he's not, this title or this label does not apply to him. If he's not a religious person, this label is not applied to him. So when you hear the word thiqah, then we're talking about someone whose narrative is sound and acceptable. This is how you judge hadith because it has been preserved. Those who narrated from the companions, from the tabi'een, from the atba'i tabi'een, and from them, the characteristics and the qualifications of these people have been preserved so you can check to see whether what they're saying is sound or what you have from them is acceptable. This narration here was collected by Ibn Abi Shayba. He said, حدثنا زياد بن الربيع. He's a thiqah, meaning that his narration is sound. He has all of the qualifications and qualities that allow you to accept from him what he says. He narrates from Salih ad-Dahan. This is Salih ibn Ibrahim. Okay? From Jabir ibn Zayd. Jabir ibn Zayd, Abu Sha'atha thiqah. He narrates from Ibn Abbas. Of course we know who Ibn Abbas is. He was one of the scholars from amongst the Sahaba. He was the one for whom the Prophet ﷺ prayed, Allahumma thaqihhu fi din wa alimhu at-ta'wil. Oh Allah, give him understanding of the religion and teach him the interpretation of the text, of the Quran. So he was not just a common person amongst the Sahaba, he was a scholar from amongst them. He said, what is intended by which you're allowed to show, he says, al-kaff wa rik'atul wajh, the hand and a part of the face. That's Ibn Abbas. We have another narration by Ibn Umar. This narration is collected by Ibn Abi Shayba. Ibn Abi Shayba, he says, حدثنا الشباب ابن الصوار. Same type of standards, okay? Hafiz ibn Hajar, he says, ثقة حافظ. And he is one of those people whose narration is sound. He says, أخبرنا هشام ibn al-Ghaz. Hisham ibn al-Ghaz, the same type of status also. from Nafi'. Nafi' is the freed servant of Ibn Umar, from Ibn Umar. This chain is also sound. Ibn Umar used to say, الزينة الظاهرة الوجه والكفان. That what the lady is allowed to show, the face and the hands. So you have then two scholars from amongst the Sahaba holding this particular position. We have some other narrations, the same narration or the same chain that was mentioned from Ibn Umar was also mentioned concerning Ata ibn Abi Rabah. الزينة الظاهرة الوجه والكفان. That what is intended by what she's allowed to show is the face and the hand. Now Ata ibn Abi Rabah was one of the scholars from amongst the Tabi'een during the time of the Sahaba. He was such an outstanding scholar that Ibn Abbas used to say that the people of Mecca, تَجْتَمِعُونَ إِلَيَّ وَعِنْدُكُمْ عَطَاء. You're coming to me and you have the likes of Ata in your presence. So he was not just one of the common Muslims, he was a scholar from amongst the Tabi'een. He had this position. This position was also held by Makhul al-Shami, with the same chain of narration, حدثنا شبابة and Hisham from Makhul. Okay, سمعت مكحول يقول, I heard Makhul saying, الزينة الظاهرة, that which is allowed to be seen, what is apparent, is the face and the hand. Abu Hatim, he said, I don't know, ما أعلم بالشام أفقه من مكحول. I don't know anyone in the whole of Sham who has more understanding of this deen than Makhul. We have another narration. This particular narration is found in the tafsir of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. He says, حدثنا ابن عبد الأعلى. This is Muhammad ibn Abd al-A'la. He is also a thiqah. He says, حدثنا معتمر. This is Mu'tamar ibn Sulaiman, Abu Muhammad. He's also thiqah, meaning that his narration is acceptable and sound. He says, قال Yunus. This is Yunus ibn Ubaid. كان من أثبت أصحاب الحسن البصري. He was one of the soundest students from Hassan al-Basri. Hassan al-Basri used to say, الزينة الظاهرة, what is allowed to be shown, al-wajh wa thiyab, the face and the garment, the outer garment. Now, Bakr ibn Abdullaah al-Muzani, he said about Hassan al-Basri, he said, ثقة ثبت. He didn't just express one qualification, yani that would normally categorize you as an A student. But he was an A++ student. This is Hassan al-Basri. He said, من سره أن ينظر إلى أفقه من رأينا فلينظر إلى الحسن. If you want to see the person that we consider to be the most knowledgeable about this deen, then look at Hassan al-Basri. So this particular understanding from the verse was not something that was just by a few of the people of old. And this was not just the common people. We're looking at scholars from amongst the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. Scholars from amongst the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. Okay? Now, this position actually was held by Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Qurtubi, and others. So, that part is something that shows that even in the earliest times, the understanding of the verse in Surah An-Nur was not just understood in one way. That they had different understandings, not just from the common people, but from amongst the scholars of that time. From the generation of the Sahaba to those who came after them. Okay? Now, the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. I want to touch on this for a moment. And let them wear the khimar is that which covers the head, the ear, the neck, and the upper part, the chest. Okay? That's the khimar. It covers the head, the hair, the ear, Because the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-udhunani min al-ra'si. The ear, both of them are a part of the head. They take the same regulation. So you don't wear the khimar with your hair sticking out. Some people, they wear it as if it's a turban. Okay? That is not the way it is supposed to be done. As a matter of fact, when both Qurtubi and Ibn Kathir mentions this, they say that this was the way the women in Jahiliyyah, prior to Islam, used to wear their headwear. Wear it like a turban, and some of them would wear it where it was, the ear was out, the neck was out, the earrings were showing, and it was tied hanging in the back. That was the dress code of the women of Jahiliyyah. And Islam came to correct that. Islam came to correct that. He says, كانت المرأة منهن تمر بين الرجال. She used to pass, a lady would pass in front of the men. And she would have her chest, the upper part of her chest showing. Okay, لا يواريه شيء, nothing would cover it. وَرُبَّمَا أَظْهَرَتْ عُنُقَهَا, sometimes her neck would show, okay, or some parts of her hair, or some of her earrings, or her hair. فَأَمَرَ اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ أَيَسْتُرْنَ فِي حَيَّتِهِنَّ وَأَحْوَالِهِنَّ. And Allah commanded the believing women to cover themselves up. Not to show your hair or your earrings, not to have your hair sticking out, not to have your neck exposed. That practice then is a Jahili practice and not an Islamic one. Okay. Now, even though we have that in mind, we have a misunderstanding because people think that covering the hands and the face is an Arab tradition. That's equally ignorant. It was such a popular practice for the women to cover their hands and their faces that the Prophet ﷺ had to direct them when you perform Hajj. لا تنتقب المرأة المحرمة ولا تلبس القفازين. That if you go on Hajj and you're in the state of Haram, you don't wear the face veil and you don't have gloves on. It was a popular practice, a religious practice. This was the way the wives of the Prophet ﷺ covered themselves. There's no issue amongst the Ahlul Ilm of this being best. That's not the discussion. There's agreement across the board that that is best. The issue here is those sisters who don't do it, do we put them down because they don't have any evidence and we belittle them? That's not what you are supposed to do if you're calling to this dawah. If you have some evidence, you teach the people. You show them the hujjah. You deal with them in a polite Muslim manner because you're dealing with believers. So if you have some evidence, you teach. You don't put down people and expect them to hear your dawah. That's not what we do. Okay? So it was known then that this was a practice. And this is how the wives of the Prophet ﷺ went. We have a narration by Al-Hakim and Al-Mustadrak. Everyone in the chain is sound. This is from Fatima bint Mundhir. She said, عن أسماء بنت أبي بكر رضي الله عنهما قالت كنا نغطي وجوهنا من الرجال. She said we used to cover our faces from the men. ونمتشط قبل ذلك في الإحرام. And we would comb our hair before that, before going in the state of Ihram. So this practice of covering the face was a practice of the Sahabiyat. Or at least we can say some of them, or a large group of them, did it. It's not a traditional thing, an Arab tradition. It's a religious practice. Asma mentioned that. Fatima bint Mundhir, she was actually one of the scholars amongst the sisters in that time, from amongst the tabi'iyat. a scholar. Okay. Some of the known scholars from amongst the men she taught, but she learned from the Sahaba, from the Sahabiyat. Okay, she was actually the wife of Hisham ibn Urwa. We heard about Urwa the other day. This is his son, Urwa bin Zubair. This was his son Hisham. Fatima was his wife. She said, كنا نخمر وجوهنا ونحن محرمات ونحن مع أسماء بنت أبي بكر الصديق. We used to cover our faces whilst we were in the state of Ihram, while we were with Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Now, we do have indications, like I said, also from the text, that the scholars use to show permissibility for not doing this. One of the narrations that they use is found in Bukhari. And what is significant of this particular narration, it was revealed, it occurred at the time of the farewell pilgrimage, which means that all of the regulations for the dress code was already down, had already been revealed. During the farewell pilgrimage, the dress code and what was required was finished. This narration, Bukhari narrates from Ibn Abbas, he says, أردف رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الفضل ابن عباس يوم النحر خلفه على عجز راحلته. The Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, he had Fadl ibn Abbas riding with him on the same mount behind him. وكان الفضل رجلا وضيئا. And Fadl was a very handsome young man. Okay, Hafiz ibn Hajar, he said, وَضِيئًا يعني لِحُسْنِ وَجْهِهِ. Because of how handsome he was. وَضِيئًا here refers to how his face was, he was a handsome person. Okay. فوقف النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم للناس يفتيهم. And the Prophet ﷺ stopped to answer the questions of the people and to give them religious directives, give them some fatwa. وَأَقْبَلَتْ إِمْرَأَةٌ مِنْ خَثْعَمْ وَضِيئَةٌ. And a lady came from Khath'am. Remember when Hafiz described what wadi mean, he said it meant that Fadl was handsome. His face was pleasant. This lady was being described in the same way, wadi'a, meaning she was extremely beautiful. As a matter of fact, she was so beautiful that this is what Fadl did. Says she came to stafti Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, questioning the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَطَفِقَ الْفَضْلُ يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهَا وَأَعْجَبَهُ حُسْنُهَا. Fadl started to look at her, and he was actually, besides himself, dazzled because of how beautiful she was. فَالْتَفَتَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَالْفَضْلُ يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهَا. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam turned around, and Fadl was looking at her. فأخلف بيده فأخذ بذقن الفضل فعدل وجهه عن النظر إليها. The Prophet ﷺ turned around and Fadl was looking at her, the sister. And so he took him by his chin and he turned his face around from looking at this sister. Okay? فقالت, she said, يا رسول الله, إن فريضة الله في الحج على عباده أدركت أبي شيخا كبيرا لا يستطيع أن يستوي على الراحلة. The obligation of performing the pilgrimage, O Messenger of Allah, has come upon my father, but he has attained old age. He cannot be stable on his mount. فهل يقضي عنه أن أحج عنه? So would it suffice him if I were to perform the pilgrimage on his behalf? قال نعم. He said yes. This particular narration is used by the Ahlul Ilm in more than one way. The first thing is that we heard previously that it was a practice of the sisters, if they wanted to cover their faces, that they don't have anything fixed on it, but that you can bring your garment and cover it. That you can bring your garment and cover your face. Like Asma used to do, and Fatima bin Munthir. Because if you're in the state of ihram, you cannot have anything fixed. But you can bring the cloth from your jilbab or from your khimar and have it come in front of your face without it being fixed. The position of the Ahlul Ilm here is that if this was an obligation, the Prophet ﷺ would not allow the sister to come in this state and then go and not tell her to do any of that. All of the regulations for the clothing was there. We're not talking about her being in the state of ihram, because being in the state of ihram does not prevent you from taking your khimar or your jilbab and bringing it in front of your face, if it was an obligation under this circumstance. For this reason, Ibn Battal, he says, فيه دليل على أن نساء المؤمنين ليس عليهن من الجلباب أو من الحجاب ما يلزم أزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, this narration is an indication that it is not an obligation on the other Muslim women to cover themselves, their faces like this, like it was an obligation on the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? This particular statement was not only a statement, it was a statement of Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, and Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi mentioned is also in Al-Mughni. All right? طيب. We have a narration here. And this narration actually is collected by Al-Bayhaqi. Al-Bayhaqi in his Sunan al-Kubra is hadith 9,130. The narration from Bayhaqi is taken from Al-Hakim. Hakim is thiqah, there's not a problem with that. He narrates from Abu Abdullaah, Abu Amr, Muhammad ibn Ja'far, also considered a thiqah. He narrates from Yahya ibn Muhammad, thiqah, the same thing. From Ubaydullah ibn Mu'adh, thiqah. From Mu'adh ibn Mu'adh, thiqah mutqin. Not just an A+ student, but beyond that. Okay, from Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj, same category. From Yazid ibn Abi Yazid, okay, thiqatun. The narration then is very sound. This narration that we have from Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, Al-Muhrima talbas min athiyab ma sha'at. The lady in the state of ihram may wear whatever garment she wants to. Okay? إِلَّا ثَوْبًا مَسَّهُ وَرْسٌ أَوْ زَعْفَرَانٌ. Unless it's a garment that is touched by these two types of items, these two types of trees or flowers. وَلَا تَتَبَرْقَعْ. She does not cover her face with the burqa, which is a type of face covering. وَلَا تَلَثَّمْ. All right, she doesn't wear a veil either. وَتَسْتُلُ الثَّوْبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهَا إِنْ شَاءَتْ. And she's allowed, and this is when strange men come, to cover her face with a garment, a khimar, if she wants to. Meaning if she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to do it. This is Aisha radiallahu anha. For this reason, when Shaykh Nasr rahimahullah ta'ala discusses this, he says, فَتَخْيِيرُ عَائِشَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا الْمُحْرِمَةِ فِي السَّدَلْ دَلِيلٌ وَاضِحٌ عَلَى أَنَّ الْوَجْهِ عِنْدَهَا لَيْسَ بِعَوْرَةٍ. He says, this choice that Aisha radiallahu anha gave the sister in the state of ihram to either say she can't do this, put that garment over her face when the strangers come, or not to do it, is the clear indication that she didn't consider this to be an obligation, that the face was an awrah for all the sisters. Okay? طيب. So we then, when we look at some of these evidences, we get a feeling that, well, look, maybe then it was the sisters then who have this position, they're not just going off of their desires. And perhaps they're not the way you think they are, because of the textual evidences that they're using and the understanding of the Salaf from amongst the Sahaba and Kibar al-Tabi'een, and some of the senior scholars from amongst the Tabi'een. Perhaps I need to discuss it a little bit more in detail, instead of just putting down someone because I feel that what I'm upon is right and they're wrong. Perhaps another approach needs to be taken. Let us discuss it. We're believers. We're not trying to break down one another. We're all trying to get to Jannah. Our purpose, look, if it's in the Quran and if it's in the Sunnah, that's what we want to be upon, as long as it's authentic. Right? We have some other narrations here. We have this narration actually, which is collected by both Bukhari and Muslim. Those other narrations seem to be to the point, dealing with the issue, pretty strong. This narration by Bukhari, he says, كُنَّا نِسَاء الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يشهدن مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم صلاة الفجر متلفعات بمروطهن ثم ينقلبن إلى بيوتهن حين يقضين الصلاة لا يعرفون أحد من الغلس. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said the believing women used to participate in the Fajr prayer, covered in their garments, wrapped up fully in their garments. Then they would return home when the Salah had been completed, and no one would know them because of darkness. No one would know them because of darkness. Okay? Now, in the other narration, this particular narration by Abi Ya'la in his Musnad, the hadith 4476, it says, وَمَا يَعْرِفُ بَعْضُنَا وُجُوهَ بَعْضٍ, that we will not know the faces of one another when leaving the masjid. Okay? The another narration said because of darkness. How are you going to know the faces if they were covered? Hafiz ibn Hajar, when he mentions this, he says, min al-ghalas, because of darkness, this expression, هو يعين أحد الاحتمالين هل عدم المعرفة بهن لبقاء الظلمة أو لمبالغتهن في التغطية. The possibility, was they not known because there was still some remaining darkness, or because they were totally covered up? Okay? The fact that it mentions that their faces were not known, okay? Their faces, you couldn't see the faces, was because of the darkness. Okay? Al-Baji says, this particular narration يدل على أنهن كن سافرات إذ لو كن متنقبات لمنع تغطية الوجه من معرفتهن للغلس. He said this particular narration shows that they had their faces exposed. Otherwise, it would not be the the covering of the face would prevent them from being known, and not the darkness. Anyway, that's one of the things there. This other narration here, I'm going to mention the people in the chain. This narration is collected by Tabarani in his Mu'jam al-Kabir, Hadith 359. This narration, he says, حدثنا بشر ibn Musa. Bishr ibn Musa al-Khatib, and he describes, and he says, كان ثقة أمينا عاقلا ركينا. That this person is known to be a trustworthy person. He's a thiqa, meaning in terms of his deen and his accuracy. Okay, he's trustworthy, he's intelligent and sound. He narrates, he says, حدثنا al-Humaydi. Al-Humaydi who Abdullaah ibn al-Zubair. Okay, Imam Ahmad, he says, Al-Humaydi عندنا imam. Imam Ahmad says he's an imam. Abu Hatim says, هو أثبت الناس في Ibn Uyayna. He's the strongest of Ibn Uyayna's students. He narrates, he says, حدثنا Sufyan. This is Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Everybody knows Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Okay, ثقة حافظ إمام حجة. Right? In other words, in terms of his qualifications, he's off of the chart. That's Sufyan. Ismail, he narrates, this is Sufyan, from Ismail ibn Abi Khalid. Ismail ibn Abi Khalid, thiqatun thabtun. We're talking about, if you had to put a percentage or IQ, they're in the 6-point average. Right? Khalid Thawri, he says, Hafidhun nas thalatha. Thawri, Sufyan al-Thawri says, the people who have sound memory, you have 3 of them. The first one he says is Ismail, this person here. The other person from Ismail, he says, from Qais ibn Abi Hazim. Qais ibn Abi Hazim, Abu Dawud, he says, Ajwadu tabi'ina isnad. The best amongst the tabi'in in terms of what he narrates, the chains. He says, Qais ibn Abi Hazim. Because he narrates from the 10 people that were given glad tidings of Jannah. In one hadith, he narrated from 9 of them except Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He said, دخلنا على أبي بكر. We entered the chamber of Abi Bakr رضي الله عنه في مرضه, during his sickness. فرأينا امرأة بيضاء موشومة اليدين. We saw a fair-skinned lady, and she had her hands tattooed. Notice what he said. We entered upon Abi Bakr, and we saw this fair-skinned lady with her hands tattooed. This is during the time of the Khulafa. The Prophet ﷺ had passed away. The regulations had already been established concerning covering oneself. Okay? She said, we saw she had tattoos on her hands. This is what she had prior to Islam. Okay? تَذُبُّ عَنْهُ وَهِيَ أَسْمَاء bint Umays. She was tending to Abu Bakr. This was Abu Bakr's wife, Asma bint Umays. Hands exposed. If it was a part of the outer, do you think she would have this exposed in front of strangers? And don't think that she was an old lady, because she wasn't. After Abu Bakr died, Ali ibn Abi Talib married her, and she had 2 kids for him. Okay? 2 kids, Yahya and Aun. So it had nothing to do with her being an old lady, no. Okay? So we do have that, and we have some other narrations. A narration by Ibn Sa'd in his Tabaqat. Same type of thing, the change of narration for the brothers who may have this available to them. The Hadith 4636. From Fatima, the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Okay? When Urwa ibn Abdullaah ibn Qushayr entered upon her, he saw her with rings on her hands. The point here is that these are some of the evidences that many of the old scholars use to say that these 2 things are allowed to be seen by the sister. That they're allowed to be seen by the sister. Now, the feet are a part of the outer. Your feet are a part of the outer. So you don't go outside and you have, your feet show in summertime. Sandals with your feet sticking out. We have a narration here from Ibn Umar. This narration is by At-Tirmidhi, Abu Isa. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من جر ثوبه خيلا لم ينظر الله إليه يوم القيامة. Whoever drags his garment out of arrogance, Allah shall not look at him on يوم القيامة. فقالت سلمة وكيف يصنعن النساء بذيولهن. What are the women to do with the tail of their garments? The Prophet ﷺ said, يُرْخِينَ شِبْرًا. You lengthen it an arm span, a hand span. That is from midways to the calf downwards. When the Prophet ﷺ said that, Salama said, إِذٍ تَنْكَشِفَ قَدَامُهُنْ. And their feet will be shown and exposed. When she said that our feet will be exposed, the Prophet ﷺ says, يُرْخِينَ ذِرَاعًا. Then lengthen it a whole hand span. Arm's length. Lengthen it an arm's length. Why? So that the feet would not be seen. وَلَا يَسِدْنَ عَلَيْهِ. I do no more than that. So we know then that the principle in respect to the dress code of the lady is that you're not supposed to be showing yourself. You know, we have this modern type of mentality where you go wearing pants outside and a shirt and a khimar. Where's that from in Islam? Where is that to be found in the Quran and Sunnah? That a lady goes out like that. What happened to the jilbab that Allah commands you to put over your garment? Or you think that you're a Muslim and you do what you want to do and it's all right. Allah tells you, look man, do such and such. But you know, I don't feel like it. You sound like you're in the church, coming from Sunday school. That type of mentality. You claim to be a Muslimah. Allah tells you to do something, you have the evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah, and you want to do what you want to do. The principle then is that the lady, all of us should be covered, unless you have some text to prove otherwise. Like we have in this discussion here, according to some of the Ahlul Ilm. And this is based on what Allah's Messenger said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, according to Abdullaah ibn Mas'ud, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أنه قال إن المرأة عورة إن المرأة عورة, that the lady, all of her is an awrah. That means nothing on her should be seen. The exception is only the discussion that we have according to some of the Ahlul Ilm. According to some of the Ahlul Ilm. فإذا خرجت استشرف الشيطان قال بعض العلم أي زينها في عيون الناس. When she leaves, the shaitan makes her seem fair seeming in the eyes of the people. وأقرب ما تكون من وجه ربها وهي في قعر بيتها. And the closest she is to her Lord is when she is in the closed chamber of her home. In the closed chamber of her home. This is what we have in terms of directives. Okay? The other thing that we have, brothers and sisters, and I mentioned this before, there is a new fad amongst the Muslim women. Okay? They wear what they call spandexes. And when they're wearing that, they're wearing these tight jeans. Okay? A jean with a shirt or pants with a shirt and a khimar on. And sometimes they got their fingernail polish out and lipstick on and other types of makeup. Man, I wonder what Umar would do if he was in our times. The Prophet ﷺ, in this narration which was collected by Muslim, Kitabul Libas wa Zina, in the book of dress and adornment. And Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Sinfani min ahli nari lam arahuma. Two groups of the fire I did not see. قوم معهم سياط كأذناب البقر يضربون بها الناس. People with whips like the tails of oxen and beating, punishing people. وَنِسَاءٌ كَاسِيَاتٌ عَارِيَاتٌ مُمِيلَاتٌ مَائِلَاتٌ رُؤُوسٌ كَأَسْنِمَةِ الْبُخْتِ الْمَائِلَةِ. And women who were clothed but naked. Women that were clothed but naked. And this is happening all over the Islamic centers in the United States. And we have people who are supposed to be leaders of their homes, leaders of the masjid, and people just got their mouth closed. It's like they're blind. The Prophet ﷺ said in hadith of Hudhayfa, لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهَوُنَّ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ أو ليوشكن الله أن يبعث عليكم عقابا منه ثم تدعون فلا يستجيب لكم. Allah's Messenger said, you shall command what is right and you shall forbid what is wrong. Or pretty soon Allah will send a punishment down on everybody. and then you will supplicate and he will not answer your supplication. How are you going to have a fad like that in the community and everybody keeping quiet? Nobody saying anything from the minbar? Fathers, brothers, husbands? Where's your backbone? Muslim men? This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you. You were the best people raised up. Why? تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. You command what is right and you forbid what is wrong. And not only that, once the sisters, the parents, the mothers start dressing like this, they become an example for the generation to come. The breakdown starts now. And all because we want to use our own feeble intellect to second guess revelation. Why I gotta do that? Well, if you're Muslim, Allah tells you to do something, or Allah's messenger tells you to do something, what you mean, why you gotta do it? You Muslim? Yeah, I'm a Muslim. But Allah knows what is in my heart. The hadith says Allah looks to your heart and not to your form. Well, there's another hadith. He says He looks to your form, to your heart, and to your deeds. And if your heart was right, your actions would be correct. The Prophet ﷺ says, in the body there's a piece of flesh. If it is whole, the whole body is whole. This is why some of the Salaf used to say, the heart is Amirul A'da, Amirul Jaysh. The heart is like the leader of the whole body. And if the Amir is sound, لَنْ يُفْسِدْ جُيُوشُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. His foot soldiers won't be causing corruption in the land because he'll check them. If your heart is right, your limbs will be doing what is right. Your heart is corrupt. That's why you second guessing Allah and His messenger. That's why when you hear what you're supposed to do, you buckle. And talk about, well, I don't feel, no, it's kind of difficult. You being harsh. Subhanallah. Don't you know that's a statement of kufr? You're saying that what you have in the Quran and the Sunnah is harsh? This particular narration then says, clothed but naked. Deviant, and they teach others deviance. رؤوسهن كأسنمة البخت المائلة. Some of these women will have their hair, and like they have it in a turban all up, to go outside to show themselves. The Prophet ﷺ says, لا يدخلن الجنة. They shall not enter paradise. ولا يجدن ريحها. They won't even find and smell the scent of paradise. وَإِنَّ رِيحَهَا لَيُوجَدْ مِنْ مَسِيرَةِ كَذَا وَكَذَا. Even though the fragrance of Jannah can be found from such and such a distance. So the issues that we're dealing with, brothers and sisters in Islam, is not something that's like simple, that's just her. Leave the kids alone. They're teenagers. But don't you know that it's the kids who are the future for this deen? And if they don't have the right upbringing, who's going to give it to them? If we're not examples for the people to come, where are they going to get the examples from? From the church? From the synagogue? If we don't stand up as parents, as husbands, as brothers, as mothers, as sisters, and we are not pace setters, who's going to do it for us? We have been blessed with this deen of Islam. We have been blessed with this deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored the first generation because they had no cut on them when it came to revelation. Allah said it, that's what it is. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would send them to these different emperors and things once Islam started to spread. They would go and not even look at the adornments in the castles. It didn't concern them, the glitter. Because they came to them with a message. We have a message for you, a risala, from the one who is above the seven heavens. What you got don't mean nothing. What we are striving for is better than what you could even think of. They had a right perspective in their heads. And so Allah favored them. The breakdown comes when we start introducing the intellect and I feel type of stuff, and people start acting like they are remedial. And the breakdown happens. People fighting with the deen, not along with it, against it. We have this narration here. This particular narration is collected by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad from Usama. He said, كساني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قبطية كثيفة كانت مما أهداها دحية الكلب. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم gave Usama a Coptic thobe. It was a thick garment. Okay? And it was something that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam got as a gift from Dihya al-Kalbi. فَكَسَوْتُهَا إِمْرَأَتِي. And I gave it to my wife as a garment. فَقَالَ لِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. So the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم said to me, مَا لَكَ, what is with you? لم تلبس القبطية. Why are you not wearing that garment, that piece of cloth that I gave you? قلت يا رسول الله كسوتها امرأتي. I gave it to my wife. فقال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مرها. Command her. فتجعل تحتها غلالة. Let her wear something underneath that, a garment closer to her body. إني أخاف أن تصف حجم عظامها. I'm afraid that her shape would be shown. So to avoid that, let her wear something on it so it takes it away from her body and her shape otherwise would not be shown. So that's not something that is allowed. Okay? It's not allowed at all. That popular practice that we've seen, everybody looking at it like it's good. Sisters going around with their pants and their shirt and the khimar, and that's become acceptable. A part of it is that we don't study the deen to know what Allah requires of us and what we find in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's one of the problems. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين وكان الله غفورا رحيما. O Prophet, command your wives, say to your wives, to your daughters, to the believing women, let them put over themselves the jalabib. This is closer that they may be recognized and not harmed, and Allah is forgiving, merciful. The jilbab, like Ibn Kathir mentioned, this is something. الجلباب والرداء فوق الخمار هو بمنزلة الإزار اليوم. That the jilbab was something that the companions, the Sahabiyat, used to wear on top of the normal garment that you would have. Okay, for example, in the home, if you're praying, you may have the khimar on, you may have on a blouse, a skirt, okay, and you may pray like that in the home. But when you went outside, on top of that, there was another garment to give you extra covering. That is the jilbab. The way they used to wear it is from on top of the head all the way down, so that your shape is not shown. Okay? So that is something that was there from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, directing us how the ladies are supposed to conduct themselves. Salama says, when this verse was revealed, يُدْنِينَ عَلَيْهِنَّ مِنْ جَلَابِيبِهِنْ خرج النساء الأنصار, the women from amongst the Ansar came out, كأن على رؤوسهن الغربان من الأكيسة. They came out as if they had crows on their heads because of the garments, the outer garments they were wearing. Now that doesn't mean that the jilbab can only be black. That's probably a big misunderstanding, because the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and Shaykh Nasr pointed out, as he authenticated some of the narrations in the Tabaqat from Ibn Sa'd, they used to wear other colors than that. Okay? So black is not the only color that you have to wear. And I think that's a popular misunderstanding that we have. And I think I probably went over a little bit. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to choose the times when he would admonish, right? He used to say, the companions say, مَخَافَةَ السَّعَامَةَ عَلَيْنَا, out of fear that he would bore us, right? That's Allah's messenger. So you don't want to, put too much on the people's head at one time. So, subhanakallahumma bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.